Did you hit on your end too? Awesome. Okay. I'm so excited to be here for another monthly chat with my good friend, Matt Lansadell. I have to share, we were laughing right before this because I'm drinking liquid death. If you don't know, it's this like sparkling water. And the can, he's like, "Are you drinking a Guinness?" Or he thought I was 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. No, I am not. So it's kind of funny. But I'm so excited. I always look forward to our monthly chats.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah, we're just kind of last month we kind of went in the direction of just like riffing on what's been coming up for each of us personally and then giving the episode a title after, and that felt really good and seemed to resonate with a lot of people who listened. So we're
Yeah.
going to continue with that format. So yeah, I'll just kick it off and really kick it over to you, Matt. First, just like, how have you been? What's been coming up for you? Any themes? Like, let's just kind of see where this goes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so I think probably one of the bigger themes that are coming up for me, there's kind of two streams actually, and they're kind of related, but I would say the first one is around fear. And did I talk about that in the last, I don't know if I did as much. Within this last month, I've been doing a lot of content creating around fear and my experience of trauma and how trauma has significantly impacted my relationship with fear. And I became quite dissociated. I became quite perfectionistic, quite people pleasy, and all these little mechanisms I built around myself to not have to experience fear. And now I don't want to live that way because it's inauthentic, and I'm wanting to face my fears. So I'm doing a lot of things. For example, like I'm practicing radical honesty in my relationships, which means I'm talking 100% my truth as I experience it, and I'm not censoring it, not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm just being really honest, and it's creating, as you can imagine, conflict and disappointment, and for people and for myself, and these sorts of things. And conflict for me has been a very big fear in my life. I don't like having conflict with people because I can often feel their feelings towards me during the conflict, and it makes me feel really insecure and awful and these sorts of things. So a lot of facing of fears is a big part of kind of what I've been going through. And then the other side of the coin is releasing. Just I'm it's almost like my whole life feels like it's underneath a magnifying glass right now, and I'm just really seeing with a ton of clarity what's working, what's not, what's weighing me down. And like I'm tired of feeling dense. I'm tired of feeling dense. And when you people please, and when you try to avoid having to deal with realities and fear and stuff, it creates heaviness, it creates density in the mind and in the body. And so I'm really clear right now around like what it is that I want, what it is that I don't want. And it's a really beautiful feeling because a lot of my life I've been I've been empathic, and that led to codependency because I abandoned myself so I could be there for other people. That's how I was obviously dealing with my empathy, and or being an empath. And I just lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens.
I do it all the time.
Yeah. So about releasing. So what I'm noticing right now is that um I'm struggling with people needing from me. That's what it feels like. And I'm feeling a big pull right now. I'm feeling people pulling on me, and it's like the universe is testing me and seeing if I am ready to be fully sovereign and to be fully empowered in myself, and not needing these little mechanisms of codependency to create a sense of self. And I'm feeling it's so the cool thing about that is it's like I feel very assured of who I am right now, and that's a really beautiful thing, right? I know what my needs are. I know what I don't want in life. So anyway, I did some writing this morning, and I shared with my audience that I've come to almost like a realization that the way I create is very much inconsistent, for lack of a better word. And I don't, when I create when I want to create, and I create when I'm in vibration and in alignment to create. And so for what I've been doing for most of my career is I generate, even when I don't want to generate, and it's inauthentic to me. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to be batch creating. So when I'm feeling in the vibration of creating, I will pump out content, and when I'm not, I won't. And I'm not going to feel bad for it. I'm just going to enjoy, when, I told my audience, I said, when I'm not creating, you can trust that I'm resting and I'm living life and I'm enjoying myself, and I'm building all the yumminess that I can share with you. I have to live my life in order to build that yumminess too, right? So I don't want to just be one of those generic cookie cutter content creators that is just pumping out stuff because they have to. I will really want to make sure it's aligned to who I am. So anyway, there's tons of stuff percolating here, but I'll leave it there, and I'm sure it'll unpack further throughout the episode.
Totally.
What about for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to reflect to you. I felt that like unapologetic energy from you where it's like, this is me, this is what I need. And I'm not afraid. I mean, maybe afraid to say it. Like you said, you're facing fear and all of
Yeah.
that and the discomfort, but you're still like doing it, which is cool. And what you were saying about feeling like people needing you and pulling on you and the universe testing you in that way, like, oh my gosh, I've been feeling that as well, and have had some moments in the past couple of weeks where I've just had to like really reassess, like, what are my boundaries and like what am I cool with and what am I not okay with and what is like too much. Because being empathic and being somebody who supports others, like we're it's easy to have things projected onto us. It's easy for people to, have those codependent tendencies. And so I always have to like also pay attention to the role I'm playing in all of this as well. And yeah, it's scary though. It's nerve-wracking to kind of like say what you need and be honest and set new boundaries that you didn't have in place before. Because where I sometimes get tripped up is like if I feel like my space is impeded upon, my energy is like taken advantage of. Sometimes I can get a little frustrated with myself, like, oh my gosh, why weren't you more clear? Like, you should have had a boundary. Like, what's your deal? But
Mhm.
instead, I'm like reminding myself, like, no, you can always start. You can always add things in. Like, we're always learning and evolving. And it's just, there's a lot there, especially for those of us who did struggle with people pleasing and do struggle with it. Like, I'm always working through it. So
Yeah.
yeah, really felt what you were saying there.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, there's really been this theme of like just renewal and stepping into a fresh energy. And so just to be candid, like, and share, this is like weird to share, but it's not weird anymore because it's 2023 and people talk about this stuff. So I was I was pregnant for 9 months, obviously, so I didn't have like a cycle then. And then even for the first 9 months of my daughter's life, I'm still breastfeeding, but didn't have one then either. So I went a year and a half without having my cycle. And then it started the day of the new moon, the Pisces new moon, which is like literally so cool to me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like in alignment with the universe." Like I was like really excited, and it just felt like this is like I'm stepping into a new phase, like kind of like shedding some old layers and kind of stepping into what's next for me. And
Mhm.
so in a way, I'm like, oh man, this is not fun. But at the same time, I'm like, that's kind of cool. And so I'm feeling that energy in my life where I'm shifting through these different cycles and I'm stepping into a new phase. And so very much similar to you in that I'm kind of like looking at things under a magnifying glass. I'm kind of becoming more aware of like what's working for me, what's not feeling good. And a theme that I've had in my life that has served me well, but I'm not really interested in continuing at the moment is like being very impulsive. I've
Mm.
been like very fast action taker, go, 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 go. And
It's very
this,
Gemini.
yeah, very Gemini. I'm like, I just don't wait, I just go. And now I'm like, I don't want to do that all the time because I don't know how I'm going to feel in a week from now. So if I commit myself to a bunch of things next week, I don't know what's going to happen next week. And so I'm kind of like in this season of my life, I'm like, no, I want to actually pace myself and be a little bit more intentional and slow down a bit and honor my energy and honor where I'm at. And so those are the things that are coming up for me. And made me think of too when you were talking about how you create and really honoring your unique creative process. Like
Yeah.
that's something I really want to do more instead of feeling this like pull and urgency to just go and do all the time when it doesn't actually work well for a lot of us.
Yeah. Exactly. It's what stands out for me in your share is this word renewal. And I think renewal is like this beautiful, like kind of like a second chance is what it feels like. And human beings we're so habitual, right? And we get caught in these routines and these structures and these patterns. And that's adaptive for sure, because it makes things easier. Like when we get into a routine, we're on autopilot, we're good, we're efficient. But when things stop working for us, we need that period of renewal. We need that pause that precedes renewal, so we can then step into, okay, something's not working here, I need to start to make it work better, right? And I love that. And for me, it's like this whole, I just feel this like this deserving energy of like, I deserve to be comfortable and I deserve to be safe. These are two really big things for me right now, because my renewal, as you speak of, is about what isn't working in my life so I can be more comfortable. And that's part of that is my honoring my creative process. I deserve to be in aligned to my creative process, that it brings me joy as much as it brings value to other people when I create, right? And I think for the longest time I was like, I'm just creating for other people's experience, I'm not creating for my experience. And I think that's what I'm reclaiming right now, and it feels really good. And then what was the other side of that? So comfort and I am safe. I think that's a lot of the work I'm doing right now too, is it's like, I deserve to feel safe. And I've been pumping out a lot of content a few weeks ago around that, like life after trauma, facing fear and having an inner sense of safety. It's been so important for me to restore safety in myself. And again, I've been on autopilot probably since I was a kid, and I've been in that energy that you've been in, and I can even feel that energy in my body right now. Like I'm talking fast, and it's not a safe energy for me. Like I find when I'm slowed down and I'm really just honoring every feeling, every sensation that I'm experiencing in my body, that is safety for me, right? So the speed and the volume to which I operate needs to constantly be reevaluated. And that is where I'm finding safety, because it's like, if I do what I've always done, I'm going to feel how I've always felt. And I don't want to feel sped up, impulsive, unsafe, not comfortable, all of these things anymore. So it's like, I'm really going through this, like I said, the only way to describe it is like my whole life is under a microscope right now. And I'm really, really, and it's actually fueled by a fierce energy. There's a fierce energy in me right now that I'm like, not working. See you later. That relationship's done. And I don't have a lot of guilt or the awkward feelings that I would have from before. It's just like, I've stepped into my power, and I know that I need to release these things in order for me to level up, right? And the universe knows, like I've felt it coming for the last while now. Like there's another level of success waiting for me, but the universe is testing me right now to see if I'm equipped to handle that. And I just feel like, if I even hear right now, like, you think you're being pulled on now, right? Just wait, but you'll have the tools to be able to say no and release people pulling on me, and that's all my boundaries, right? So I'm really, really almost like I'm in a master class the universe is putting on right now around how to be boundaried and how to advocate for what is best for me without being inundated by guilt and fear, right? So
yeah, I mean, what I hear is just like a fierce like self-love and compassion for yourself, like what you were saying about like how you've found yourself in the past just like creating for everyone else, and we're creating for the algorithm and all the things, and then it's like taking a step back and being like, no, like where's the joy in this for me? And something I try to make a practice, and I'm continuing to work at it, is like kind of zooming out, and like I like to like view myself from above sometimes, and like look at myself as if like looking at how much I'm doing, how hard I'm working, like how much I'm pouring into everything I do. Like it can be so easy, I guess, for me to lose sight of all the things that I'm doing and get really just like caught up in the little details and I need to do more, I need to do more. And it's like, dude, like zoom out, like you're holding a lot of things. You are, and then you're also like forcing yourself to show up in this way that like doesn't feel good. It's just like having like making that shift to have more compassion for yourself and also like count yourself in the equation is huge, because it's like it's going to feel better when you're creating. It's not going to have that like, oh, I need to do this and whatever just to like keep up, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's exhausting. It just doesn't work for a lot of us. And yeah, the energy of renewal has really been sticking with me. It's interesting, like I've been in such a transition period becoming a mom, and it's just like it's one of those things where it's just like way more intense than I expected. And there's that discomfort of like, oh, I want to be my old self because that's like who I was and who I know how to be, but like trying to be that version of me is like putting on a shoe that doesn't fit. It just like doesn't work. And I've been in like the uncomfortable process for a long time, it feels like, but starting to feel that step into the renewal where it's like, okay, this is the next version of me. It's more fierce. I know who I am in this period. I'm not afraid to have my own back. Like, I just feel like that's kind of what's next and what kind of comes through. And it's one of those things you can't rush your way to. It's where you have to go through that sticky, crappy discomfort to like kind of become more aware, like, oh, this is the stuff that's not working. And if you want to like have a life that, feels better and is in alignment with you, you got to get rid of this stuff. Like it's not gonna work. And so something that's kind of interesting is like, as you know, and I've shared, I closed my membership back in September of 2022.
Yeah.
And I've created all that content with so much love and heart, and I wanted it to live on. And I finally have come to a conclusion of the way I'm going to share that content and how it's going to live on. I have a new offering that'll be coming out at some point pretty soon. And it, again, is like a renewal there where it's like, this is something that really mattered to me, it really matters to me. And I freaking know it's helpful. And now it's going to have its second life in a new way. And
Yeah.
that's where I was like feeling like, oh, like my old pattern was to be like, okay, I'm going to set this date. This is the launch date. And then I'm going to like run towards it. And I haven't set a date. And that's radical for me to like have spaciousness. Like I've been sitting with it and I'm like, it's going to come to me when it's time. And I'm like really proud of myself for like doing that, because as somebody who's moves way too fast, like you said, like I just want to feel that grounded safety. I want to give myself spaciousness and be like, it's all good. Like, what are we rushing for? Let it
Yeah.
marinate. So that's
Yes.
where I'm at, and it's feeling good, and it's a little scary, but it feels good too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I didn't feel comfortable with repurposing until, geez, like a year ago. And I've created like for the last 10 years, I think, just endless content. I have so much content, and I always was creating new. And, it's funny because there's such a correlation between that and like my value, my self-value. This has been an area that I've had injured from a very young age around worthiness. I've never felt good enough, inadequacy, I guess maybe you could call it. And so I've always used my creative process as a way to compensate or overcompensate for feeling not good enough. So it was like, oh, if I'm repurposing my content, then it means that, like I'm not creative enough to bring new stuff forward. And my whole creative process, there was just so much pressure. And that's why I burnt out. And that's why I've been taking time. And maybe that's why I'm inconsistent now, because I'm just like, I have to go to the far end and just be like, fuck it. Honestly, like I'm tired. I'm so tired of creating from this place within me, and I'm reconfiguring a new place within me to be able to create from. So, I love that. I love that you're repurposing that. And I actually did that recently with a membership community that I had with two other coaches, and we repurposed it into a one-time content library of like a coaching collection, we call it. And so that's been amazing. And then we're not having to constantly hustle inside the membership to create new and da 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 da. It's just like, here's all this beautiful things we've created. So I love that you're repurposing, and I felt the excitement in you when you were sharing. I have a question for you though, because there was something else that expanded when you were sharing. You were talking about your life and how some things aren't working, and some things are. And then you talk about renewal, and renewal is like a moving from A to B or 1 to 2 or whatever. And so what do you want your life to look like? Like, what is this life you're creating? What are you renewing yourself into?
Yeah. For me, it's like I'm craving like um less when I think a lot about my work, I guess it's just such a huge part of my life. But in
Same.
general, I just want more like depth, less
Mhm.
like surface level. So
Yes.
like in the past, I've been somebody who just like creates new things all the time, and that's part of my energy and I love it, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of like, okay, I want to settle into the things that I've created and like set some roots here and not feel like I have to jump so fast to the next thing. I just want to move slower. I want to like create more depth with the things that I've created. I want to just like connect. I want to like let things marinate more than I have in the past. And I think in the past it's because of that like frantic like go 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 energy, and I'm just like, we've talked about urgency in the past and that's been the vibe, and I'm like, I'm sick of the urgency. Like I want to
Mhm.
trust that, because a lot of times it's like from a scarce place where I'm like, oh, I just got to keep moving, because if I don't, then I'm going to lose momentum. I'm going to fall behind, whatever that means, and it's just like
Mhm.
gross. And so I've really almost I want to show myself that it's safe to move slower, and that it's like the timing is perfect. Like what if I just let what I have be enough? Um and with that too, I just want to free up more mental space, because my work is always going to be a huge part of my life, but I do want to feel like I'm also more present with my family when I'm with them. And when I'm like juggling so many things and like thinking of all these new things all the time, I'm just like I'm pulled away, and so it's just like less with more depth. That's just like what it feels like.
Mm.
So, yeah. How about for you? What's it feeling like for you?
Oh, geez. Well, the way, like, we're so similar because my life is my work is my life. Like, it is me. Like that. It's funny. Like when I think about work, it's not like most people think about work. Work is me. It's my creations. It's my psychology. It's my spirituality that I'm sharing with the world. So it's really interesting. Like I feel so blessed to be aligned to my soul path, even though my soul path is challenging. It challenges me in so many ways, but it's so beautiful because I there've been periods in my life where I wasn't aligned, or I got derailed because I wasn't able to pursue this work because I wasn't mentally stable enough to do it. So I had to go into something different. So I know the feeling of not being aligned to my soul path, and it's really it sucks. I don't like that feeling.
Mhm.
But when I think about what I want to create, it's like I want to like, yeah, similar to you. I want to create space in my life, and I think I want eventually to have a partner. And I don't think I'm quite ready though. And this is a really interesting thing because I've been convincing myself I'm ready for partnership, but I don't think I quite am. I think there's still a few things that I'm learning how to navigate within my own world, and I'm feeling very, very territorial of my space right now, and I'm needing to go through that in order to reclaim my energy and find my edges. And as I'm discovering that, it's like allowing me to set stronger boundaries and be more clear about my needs. And I don't think it would be fair for the universe to bring somebody in special into my life and then me be in this territorial energy of like my space and time. So I know that that's going to rectify itself first before that comes in, but I want more space. I do want a bit more simplification, but I also am a Gemini, and I know that depth sometimes is not good for me. I like airy fairy kind of moving around to different things. I love novelty and variety. So I
Mm.
want to, but I don't want it to come from a place of like I need to do it so I can become more successful or more popular or earn more money. I want it to be purely like, oh man, this vision like lights me up and it creates expansiveness in my being. And then I move towards it. That's what I want. I want just pure and utter alignment. And I want to connect more with people like you that I just vibe with and they just get me and I get them and our creations are beautiful. Um, that's what I want. I don't want dense, heavy have to do it energy. I'm tired of the have to do it. No more obligations in my life. If it's not working, it's going to be nixed. And that's why I love being an entrepreneur, because I get to call the shots. If I don't want to do something, I don't have to do it. Right.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. What I keep hearing is just like meaningful, like the steps that we take, the things that we do are meaningful. It's intentional. It's not just because we have to. It's not just to like fill this need and blah, blah, blah. Like so exhausting. So over that.
Yes.
It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not the vibe. And that's, yeah. And I think a lot of times we just have to get to the far end of it where we're feeling like, okay, I've done it. I know what this consists of and it doesn't feel great. Like, all right, it's
Yeah.
trying it a different way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so with you on all of that. It's like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. 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 I like those words. Meaningful. I think freedom comes in there. Like freedom is just so important to me. Freedom to create, freedom to be, and actually one thing I haven't been experiencing much lately, and I'm going to call this in right now, is I want more inspiration. That's like my brand is about inspiring people to be authentic, but I want more inspiration to play and to be alive and to just taste all the colors of the rainbow. Like that's what I'm really, in this energy right now. I think I've done enough healing to the point where the template of who I am isn't the energy of suffering anymore. I think for the longest time, that's been my template. Is I've been navigating so much heaviness in my experience that suffering has been who I have been, right? And that's a challenging energy to be in. And now it's like the universe is asking me to play more and be more light and fluffy and like those things. But it's interesting because I'm noticing the habits, more specifically the psychological habits around suffering that I've created. Like I almost anticipate disappointment or I anticipate suffering coming, so I'm creating that experience because I think that was one of the ways that I tried to make it not as painful, is I anticipated it coming so I would know.
Yes.
So I'm trying my best to stay in this energy. Like when I do get into the beautiful energy of play, I'm like, okay, let's imprint this. Let's really feel what this feels like, because I want more of this. I want to create, memories inside every cell in my body that play is the natural state that I'm meant to be existing in this life. Right. So that's what I'm working towards.
Yes, I love that. That resonates so much. And I think a lot of it like is, yeah, like showing ourselves that it's like safe to play, like we can do this. That the other shoe is not always going to drop. I'm the same exact way where I'm like anticipating what's going to go wrong next or what painful thing is going to happen, that I'm like taking away from the current moment and the joy. And it made me think of something like playful I did recently that's kind of reinvigorating my creativity. So like, I've launched some business offerings for highly sensitive people and it's been super fun. And I was feeling like so weird and like torn because I felt like I couldn't talk about it on my Life by Alissa Instagram. I'm like, oh, I'm watering myself down. So I was just feeling weird. And I kept having this idea, like, just make a separate Instagram page for your business stuff. I kept like, but then I'm like, no, that's too much work. I don't want to do it. But I was like, no, let's just do it. Like, it's that playful energy. And so I started it from zero. And it was like, I'm having so much fun. Like, some of my posts get like 7 likes and I'm like smiling about it because I'm like a beginner again, and it's like kind of fun to just like play, and I'm like, I literally don't care. Like it's a playground. I'm like, let's just see what happens. And it's like people are liking it and it's growing and it's really fun, and I can be completely like what's the word, uninhibited, where I just like talk fully about that and it feels good. And so yeah, it's like what can come from that. Like I think of how I started my business 4 years ago now, actually. And it came from just like a playful, like, let's just see what happens energy. And then sometimes I think we kind of like get into things and it's like, oh, this is serious and I need to make money and blah, blah, blah. And it takes us away from that initial like joyful energy. And anytime when I get further away from that, things get harder. I don't enjoy it. And I'm like, why did I start this? I get in this like slog of like, oh, I got to make the algorithm happy, instead of being in that energy of like, cool, 2 people liked my post. Like that post was freaking good. Like, like, so that like little experiment project is breathing life into me, where I'm like bringing that back into the work that I've been doing for years, where it's like, oh yeah, that's like where it started. And so I love that. I think there's so much like fertile ground there when we can lean into that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. You're using all these beautiful words like fertile and uninhibited. And, the playful energy for me, it's like, oh, I just love it. Like it's such a, and I can't believe that I'm 37 now and I've starved myself of play for so many years, like probably 2 decades. I'm not kidding. And like there's a grieving I'm going through right now actually around that. Like I feel sadness that I've not let myself play. And
Mm.
but I'm glad I'm realizing it now. I still got more than half my life ahead of me that I can play with this energy, but it's like the playful energy just leaves so much room for like silliness and making mistakes and being imperfect. Like I think when I think about play, I think about like finger painting, right? Or like,
Mm-hmm.
and just getting messy and just like really get like diving in and like, and exploring that. And it's funny because whenever like I'm in a relationship, I'm very playful. So
Mm-hmm.
partners bring out the most playful part of me. And I think that's why I love being in relationships, because you get things like sex and teasing each other and playing pranks on each other. Like that's who I am at my core. Like I am a total prankster, I'm a total trickster, and I love teasing people. It's just something that I do. It's almost like that's how I flirt.
Yes.
That that I've got a little crush on you if I like kind of tease you a little bit. That's my way. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, Gemini vibes too, because it's always like the childlike, playful energy. I feel like that's at the core. And I actually did read your newsletter this morning, and
Oh, nice.
I cracked up to myself at the part where you're talking about like your creations. It's gonna be like when grandma bakes cookies. Grandma's
Yeah.
not gonna give you a cookie every day, but when she does, it's gonna be delicious. And then you're like, just call me Grams, smiley face. I literally laughed to myself. I'm like, yes, like that's the
Yeah,
vibe. Like it just feels good and people feel
yeah,
that. So I think it's so magnetic too. We want to be around people. Not that that's like the purpose, but like it's a natural byproduct. Like when we are in that energy, I feel like things do kind of flow and it just feels more fun. And a lot of times I have to remind myself, I mean, I want to just remember this all the time, but I'm human. It's like we do take things very serious and it is so heavy, and it's like it's all just like we're just out here. We're just little like people on this earth with like a limited time. Like we do make things like a whole big thing when it's really like it's gonna end. Like it's not that serious.
yeah,
I don't know. So I like want to step more into that remembrance because it just like takes the pressure off. It's like it's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I find it quite vulnerable. Even like when you were just sharing that, like I felt like about me saying that this morning, because this morning I was in that energy and it was like so fun and I was cracking up. I'm like, oh my God, this is funny. Because that's the first I thought about it. I'm like, what is this envision? I always kind of download intuitive hits. And I'm like, I immediately thought of like a grandma baking cookies for like her grandkids. And for some reason that came in. So I was like, I played around with it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this down. But then when you were just sharing it, I kind of felt like insecure. I was like, oh my God, like,
Oh,
that. And I'm not saying that you did anything wrong at all, but it's highlights in me that like play and joy is extremely vulnerable for me. And
mm,
I think it's because I've associated play and joy with more of a feminine, childlike energy. And I have spent a lot of my life trying to repress my feminine energy because I was ashamed of it or whatever, for being gay or whatever the story is around that. And then the childlike energy is like I always felt when I was younger, like people didn't take me seriously or they didn't hear me. So it's like I tried to be very stoic and very like command people's presence and respect.
mm,
So it's like if I'm being childlike and playful, it's showing that I'm immature and I'm not competent, or I'm not composed. So again, release. I'm done with these stories. They're old stories. They're not serving me. Let's release them and let's invite more play in, because it doesn't matter if people think I'm immature, childish, playful. I want the primary experience of my life to be one of joy and one of playfulness and one of feeling alive. You know what I mean? Like that's really what I want. I want to feel alive and I want to like, suck the juice out of every single day that I can. You know what I mean? That's really
oh
what I
yeah,
want.
absolutely. Sorry,
Yeah.
do you have anything else? Sorry.
No.
Okay. I was like, I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely can relate to, well, the feeling of like people not taking me seriously, or like being like, oh, are you whatever. Like there is sometimes that pressure of thinking that, yeah, we need to show up in one certain way. And I just think of like, again, the word magnetic comes to me with just like the like how multidimensional people are, and how cool it is like knowing you, like how smart you are, how much like wisdom you have to share, but then you have that like lighthearted, funny, playful side. I think of the word juicy, I think of you because you always say juicy. It's like it's just like what makes people like dynamic and fun and like cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just what your whole brand is about, which is authenticity. It's like that's what makes us like want to be around people when they're just like in alignment with who they are, and they're not afraid to show all these different parts. It's just like, oh, that's like the kind of person I want to listen to them talk and be their friend, rather than
Yeah.
that person that's like buttoned up and perfect all the time and never says the wrong thing. Like, okay, cool, I just don't really resonate with you, and you're not going to be as fun to hang out with, so
Yeah.
I feel you. But yeah, I think it's just more joyful, spacious, unapologetically ourself kind of life is the vibe. And I think taking all these scary steps and moving through the discomfort is the key to keep moving towards that.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah, I agree. I want to share a theory that I've been cultivating lately, and I haven't quite fully articulated it in my mind yet, so I'll try my best. But and I'll start creating content around it. But it's around perfectionism, and this has been a huge theme in my life. And I think it's been motivated by inadequacy and shame. I've spoken publicly about that before, but I think perfectionism is a negative feedback loop. And what I mean by that is that when we are perfect, I'm using air quotes, when we are perfect, other people around us feel like they have to be perfect around us because we're not giving ourselves space to be imperfect. So we project that energy onto other people. So then other people around us show up perfectly, again, air quotes, and then it perpetuates our perfection.
Mm.
What I'm learning now is to share my vulnerabilities, be humble, share my imperfections, and guess what's showing up around me? Other people's imperfections and their vulnerabilities, and they're now feeling safe to share that with me. And then we create more humility, more humanity, right, in that. So if you are a perfectionist, there comes a point where you got to exit that negative feedback loop and stop showing the world only your perfections, because the mirror you're getting back from people is just that, and it's the opposite. It's an authenticity killer, right?
Mm.
So because everyone has them, everyone has imperfections, and the more that we can share them and show them to each other, the less we're going to feel the pressure to always be perfect around each other,
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's so good. Yes, that's such
Yeah.
a good point, because I can think of people in my life who exude that kind of energy, and I definitely change around them because I'm like, oh,
Totally.
I don't want them to be judging me or think that I'm like messy or something like that, because I'm not perfect. And this is something I like work with because I have now a business membership for HSPs, and like that's a huge thing that people struggle with is perfectionism and like
Mhm.
overthinking their posts and blogs and things like that, because oh my gosh, what if it has a typo or somebody doesn't like it and blah blah blah. And like one of the things I've been challenging them to is like, okay, for 5 days, just 5 days, you're going to post a piece of content every day, and you're going to just do it, and it's going to be messy action. And just the point is showing them that it's safe to put things out there imperfectly. And of course, what I knew would happen is that some of these posts are getting a lot of great feedback from people. People are feeling very validated and seen, and then it's showing, though these people like, oh, okay, it's not the end of the world if I put something out imperfectly. Actually, it might resonate with someone more than my absolutely perfectly curated post. So it's
Totally.
like that's kind of my mindset. It's like you're saying, it's like when we show that, it gives other people permission. They feel the authenticity, and they're like, oh dang, that's like someone I want to be around. That feels good. So
Yeah.
vulnerability always is like the key there. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy how much that matters.
Yeah. It's a game changer. I love that word, messy action.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
what I'm embodying in my life right now. Like singing, especially in my singing,
Yeah.
like it's very messy, and I'm learning everything's new to me, right? So yeah. but I'm pushing through. I'm taking action, and that's the only remedy to, you know, and HSPs. I'll say this to finish off, because I know we're tight for time, but I suffer from this too: analysis paralysis. Right?
Mm.
We just analyze everything. We're processing so much information. We take 10 years to make a decision. Blah blah blah. That whole thing. The remedy to that is action, not more
Yeah.
thinking. Just take
Mm-hmm.
action. Just suck it up and take action. And you know what? You'll learn as you go. That's what I think a lot of HSPs need to learn. That skill is just learn as you go. Don't worry about getting it perfect, and give yourself lots of space to you know, experiment and learn.
Yes. Yes. That is like, that is the thing I always tell people. And like, I have to just say here, and we can then wrap it up, but
Mhm.
like when I started my membership, it was in a Facebook group, and it was super messy. It was not perfect. I didn't have my business license just nothing was done. And I always tell that story to the people in my community, and they're like, wait, really? Because they're wanting to get everything ticked and tied. And I'm like, friends, like if I had waited, I wouldn't even probably be talking to you right now, because I wouldn't have done a dang thing. So it's
Yeah.
like messy action, showing yourself that it's safe to do so, and it's going to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and it's either that or you're kind of stuck in the paralysis of it all,
Ugh,
and that sucks. Doesn't
yeah.
feel good. So
That's soul sucking for sure.
soul sucking. Yeah.
Soul
Gosh.
sucking.
Oh, well, as always, like this conversation was so fun, and it's always just like cool to see where we take things and where, our souls just kind of bring us along the journey. And it
Totally.
always turns into a beautiful conversation. So
Yeah.
I really loved this so
I
much.
do. And it feels better for me to do it the way we're doing it, because it's like, again, it's more in alignment to what I'm wanting to create going forward, is like, let the creation come through you as opposed to trying to force it. So if we come up with a topic beforehand, we're boxing ourselves into talking just about that, where it's like, maybe we want to take it, you know, somewhere different. So yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you as always. I always learn so much from you too. So thank you.
Oh, same to you. Thanks,
Yeah.
friend. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone for listening and watching, and we'll be back with you next month. Woohoo.
Can't wait.